Hello students, so let us go for the next topic, that is file system. So this particular topic comes under data center environment chapter. So in the data center environment, we had an important component called host. So host is the main component in the data center. So under the host, we had different topics like operating system, device manager, or device driver, volume manager, and the next topic is here file system. So this file system is also an important component in a host. So before knowing about file system, let us see what is a file. So file is a collection of related records or data stored as a unit with the name. So you have different kinds of files. For example, you may have say a document file, PDF file, PPT file, JPG or image files. So all these, what are these files? File is a collection of related records or data stored as a unit with a name. So only when you give a particular name to a file, it has some meaning. So if simply if you store a particular file without any name, the computer won't accept it, is it? So something like you may give a name like uh, image one dot jpg file or some uh, files like you may name it as user one dot ppt. So you have to give certain name for each and every file, so then only it has got some meaning. So what is a file system now? So you can see here a particular example I have shown in this particular slide. So you can see here root directory and you have different files within the directory. So this example I have shown to explain the file system hierarchy of the Linux operating system. Okay. So it is basically a directory structure of Linux. So when it will be created when we install Linux operating system. So this directory structure of Linux will be automatically created when we install a Linux operating system. So as we all know, everything in the Linux system or we call a Unix system are files. Is it? So every command we use in Linux is a C program which performs certain operations. So when we install Linux, it comes up with different multiple directories, and everything which runs or exists on Linux machine, whether it is a process or a configuration files, resides under those directories. So here in this particular example, Linux file system hierarchy, or we call it as a Linux directory structures, uses a single rooted inverted directory structure. Okay, so you can see here it is an inverted tree like directory structure. Okay, it is a tree but it is inverted. So here usually this particular Linux hierarchy system, file hierarchy system starts with root directory and then it's followed by maybe user file, and next you may have here cp or password. Okay, like this different files you have. So under root directory you have home. After home you have two more files like user one, user two. So this is a structure of particular example for showing the file system of a Linux. So now let us see what is the use of having a file system. Okay, a file system enables easy access to data files residing within a disk drive, a disk partition, or a logical volume. So already you know what is by logical volume. This is being done in the previous slide. So logical volume is being created by having a existing physical volume. So only if you have physical volume, you can create a logical volume in your system. So a file system enables easy access to data files residing within the disk as well as the logical volumes. Okay. In it provides users with functionalities such as creating the file, modifying the file, or deleting or accessing any files. So access to the files on the disk is controlled by permissions. So, what kind of permissions you may be giving? So, you may have seen read, write, execute permissions for each and every file. Okay, so that is being set by some administrator, or certain users will be having maybe editing permission. So, like this, or executing permission. So that is all being set already. So accessing to this any kind of file on the disk is controlled by permissions assigned to the file by the owner, which is also maintained by the file system. So the file system organizes data in a structured hierarchical manner via the use of directories, so which are the containers for storing pointers to the multiple files. So as I have said, you can see here it is an hierarchical structure. So it is uh, the main you can see here the root root directory. So this root directory actually points to multiple files. So you can see here under this particular directory, root directory, you can it is pointing to number of files inside. So a file system organizes the data in structured hierarchical manner via the use of directories, so which are containers of storing pointers to the multiple files. All file systems maintain a pointer map to the directories, subdirectories and files that are part of the file system. So under the root directory you may have some other directories. So in that directories you may have multiple files. So this is about file system. So let us see the examples for common file systems. So if you are using a Microsoft Windows file system, you may be using a FAT32 file system. FAT, FAT stands for File Allocation Table. And next you have NTFS file system, okay, that we will be using in Microsoft Windows. And next you have UFS or Unix file system that will be used in case of Unix operating system. And one more you have, that is extended file system or EXT2 or 3 file system that we may be using in Linux operating system. So this kind of file system, that is Linux file system, you have seen in the previous slide. So you can see the hierarchy structure of Linux file system. Okay, so uh, you have seen the file system of a Linux operating system in the previous slide, is it? You have seen only directories in the root directory. It started with root directory, then you had certain directories inside the root directory. Then you may be accessing certain files. So this file system not only includes those directories and files, it also includes some other information. So a file system also includes number of other related records which are collectively called the metadata. So for example, the metadata in a Unix operating system consists of superblock, or next you have inodes, and also it includes list of data blocks which are in use and which are free. Okay, so you have to know what is a superblock. A superblock contains important information about the file system, such as file system type, okay, when the file is being created, the creation date or modification date you say, and the file size and also layout of the file. So this information will be there in the superblock. And next you have inode information. So inode is associated with every file and also directories, and it contains the information such as file length, ownership of the file, access privileges, time of last access or modification, and number of links of the file, and also address of the data. So these informations like superblock information, inode information, and list of data blocks free or which are in use. So all these informations are included in the file system. Okay. File system is the smallest unit allocated for storing the data. So if you think of a disk, so this particular disk will include a file system block. Okay, so you have to imagine a disk a disk which has the smallest unit, and that unit will be allocated for storing the data. That unit we call it as a file system block. Okay, and this file system block is of fixed size. Okay, so when the file system uh, when you are creating particular file, okay, the block size will be fixed by the file system at the time of creation. So a file can, so suppose you say you have a file and the file is too large. That time the file can span more than two blocks. Okay, it may be allocated to the first file, that file system block. Also, the next portion of the file will be uh, spanning through the next system block. Okay, file system block. Okay, so if you say F1, F2, if you have named it as F1 as a first file system block, F2 as a next file system. So that time, if your file is too large, okay, you compare the file size with the block size. Okay, so suppose if your file cannot fit into the block size of the file system, that time what happens is the file can span to multiple file system blocks. Okay, and next let us see the process of mapping the user files to the disk storage subsystem. That will be included in the next slide. So the following list shows the process of mapping user files to the disk storage subsystem with an LVM. LVM stands for Logical Volume Manager. So what are the steps you have to follow when you are going to create a file, and what happens inside your system when the file is being created? This file will be residing on the disk. Is it finally your file, whatever you have created, it has to reside on the disk. So what are the steps or the process of mapping user files to the disk storage subsystem? So first what happens is, the first step is files are being created and managed by users and applications. So that is the first step. You have to create a file initially. So these files resides on the file system. Whatever the files you have created, that has to reside on the file system. The file systems are mapped to the file system blocks. Okay. So as I said, when you have file system, it also includes file system blocks, and these blocks will be of fixed size. And when your files can span to multiple blocks, so that may happen during the creation of a file. Okay, next. So these the file system blocks are mapped to logical extents of logical volume. So these logical extents in turn are mapped to the disk physical extents either by operating system or by the use of logical volume manager. So these physical extents are then mapped to the disk sectors in the storage subsystem. So suppose your system or your host does not have LVM, okay, or logical volume manager, then there is no logical extent. So this step will be skipped. That is first step is creation. Next you have deciding, then you have mapping, then you have mapping. This mapping from file system block to LVM logical extent. So this particular step will be skipped if you don't have LVM in your system. Okay, if you have LVM, then file system blocks will be directly mapped to LVM logical extent. So without LVM, the file system blocks, you have here file system blocks, right? That will be directly mapped to the disk sectors. Directly mapped. That means from here to the next step is from here to here. Okay. That is, fourth step will be from here to file system block to disk physical extent, then to disk sectors. Finally, your file will be residing on the disk. Okay, so this is a process of mapping user files to the disk storage. So there are two kinds of file system. We have we have classified the file system into journaling file system and non-journaling file system. So now let us see what is a non-journaling file system. Non-journaling file system causes a potential loss of files because they use separate writes to update their data and metadata. So suppose if the system crashes during the write operation, the metadata or data might be lost or corrupted. So when this, suppose when you are rebooting the system, the file system attempts to update the metadata structures by examining and repairing them. So this operation usually takes longer time on larger file systems. So if there is insufficient information to recreate unwanted or original structure, the files may be misplaced or lost, resulting in corrupted file system. So a non-journaling file system usually does not maintain any log or journal to um, write the particular data. Suppose if you are rebooting the system, okay, if once if it is lost, it is lost forever. Okay, but that doesn't happen in case of journaling file system. Journaling file system uses a separate area called log or journal. So this journal might contain all the data that has to be written, or just the metadata that has to be updated. Okay, so before changes are made to the file system, they are written on the separate area. So after the journal has been updated, the operations on the file system can be performed. Okay, so suppose in uh, uh, during some electricity loss or the some if sometimes the system crashes during the operation, there is enough information in the log to replay the log record. Okay, so you can, if the system crashes, what happens is you can get the uh, file from the log record. Okay, so now nowadays nearly all the file system implement uh, the journaling file system. So that is the use of journaling file system. So if suppose the system crashes, you can get that record from the log record or the journal record. So now let us see what are the advantages of journaling file system. Journaling file system results in a quick file system peg because it looks only at the active, most recently accessed parts of the large file system. So since the information about the pending operation is saved, risk of files being lost is reduced. The main advantage of journaling file system is if your system restarts, your files will be saved somewhere. Is it? It will be saved on the log. Okay, so you may not lose your data. Suppose your power is lost or if your system restarts automatically. So during that time, your files will be saved in the log. But this kind of journaling file system, it also has some disadvantage. What is the disadvantage here? So they are slower than other file systems. So this slowdown is the result of extra operations that have to be performed on the journal each time the file system is changed. So this is a main advantage because more work you have here because you have to write twice, once to the log record and then actual to the disk. So to twice you have to do the same work, is it? So that's why this is slower. Automatically this makes your system slow. So this is slower than the other file system. But it is having the advantage. The advantage is your data will be always saved on the log record, so it will not be lost. Okay, so there is no risk of files being lost. Is it? So that is the main advantage.